As you shift, you feel something small scuttle across your leg. You freeze again. It's quick, almost weightless, but you know it's there. Whether it's a flea, a louse, or another rat, you're not sure. All you know is that you're not alone in this bed, and you probably never will be. Your candle sputters low, casting the room into deeper shadow. You pull the blanket tighter, trying to ignore the scratching noises from the walls. The rats have built entire highways through the timbers of this building, their tiny claws scraping like nails on a coffin lid. You realize with dread that they don't fear you, they're used to humans. They've been sleeping beside travelers longer than you've been alive. Your mind wanders to stories you've overheard. How rats carry sickness, how fleas leap from straw to skin, how entire neighborhoods fall sick overnight. You tell yourself it's just a story, just superstition. But then again, scholars still argue whether the plague spread mainly through rats, or if it was simply human filth and poor hygiene. In this room, both explanations feel equally convincing. You turn over, trying to find a position that doesn't leave your ribs stabbed by straw or your skin crawling with unseen bugs. Sleep here is less about rest and more about bargaining. How much can you ignore before exhaustion finally drags you under? As you stare at the darkened ceiling beams, you think of home, your soft pillow, your warm blanket, the silence of a clean room. And then you remember you're not home. You're in a medieval inn, and tonight you're sharing your bed with rats. Welcome to the city. The stairs groan under your weight, and each step feels like it might betray you. Upstairs, a narrow hallway leads to small wooden doors. You push one open and step into your room. It's not much. 4 walls, a straw mattress on a low frame, and a single blanket that looks like it's seen better centuries. A lone candle flickers on the table, throwing long, nervous shadows against the wall. You sigh with relief at the thought of lying down, but the relief doesn't last. The moment you sit on the bed, you hear it, a faint rustling. You freeze. Then, from the corner of your eye, you catch the twitch of something moving in the straw. A rat's nose pokes out, whiskers twitching like it owns the place. Behind it, another one scurries across the floorboard crack. Suddenly, you realize the innkeeper didn't sell you a room. He rented you a rat nest. You shake the blanket, hoping to chase them off, but that only reveals worse news. Lice and fleas, hopping like tiny shadows in the candlelight. The bedding is alive. You scratch at your arm involuntarily, already imagining the itch. Medieval inns don't offer luxury. They offer survival, and sometimes not even that. Scholars still argue whether most travelers preferred to camp outside the city walls instead of braving inns like this. But tonight, the gates are locked. You're trapped inside, and this lumpy straw is the best bed you're going to get. Lucky you. You try lying down anyway, pulling the blanket up to your chin. The straw crunches beneath you, poking through your clothes, and the air smells faintly of mold. From the room next door, you hear someone snoring like a dying ox. Downstairs, laughter erupts, followed by the unmistakable smash of a mug hitting the floor. A woman curses loudly, and the crowd roars with approval. Apparently, bar fights double as entertainment here. You finally peel yourself away from the chaos of the market, your ears still ringing with the shouts of merchants and the clang of the blacksmith's hammer. The streets narrow as you wander further in, and the glow of the torches fades to a softer, almost secretive light. By now, fatigue is catching up with you. Your feet ache from stumbling across uneven stones, and your stomach groans after rejecting wormy apples and fly-covered meat skewers. You need a place to rest, somewhere to put your head down, if only for a few uneasy hours. That's when you spot the crooked wooden sign of an inn, swinging above a door on rusty iron chains. The paint has long since peeled away, but you can just about make out the faded outline of a mug and loaf. The door creaks when you push it open, and you're greeted by a wave of heat, smoke, and stale ale. Inside, the air is thick. A fire burns low in the hearth, and the smell of spilled beer mixes with sweat-soaked rushes on the floor. Men hunch over mugs, muttering in half-drunken tones, while a woman in a greasy apron wipes down a table with a rag that looks dirtier than the table itself. Everyone looks up when you enter. Strangers aren't ignored here, they're measured, sized up, and occasionally resented. You feel a dozen eyes on you before they return to their drinks. You shuffle to the counter and ask about a bed. The innkeeper, a stout man with a beard streaked gray, grunts and names a price. Steep, considering the smell, but what choice do you have? You hand over a few coins, and he waves vaguely toward a staircase. His hand is already back on his mug before you even take your first step up. Suddenly, a commotion breaks out. Two vendors are shouting, waving knives, each swearing the other cheated in a deal. A small crowd gathers, hungry for drama, like they're watching theater. Fights like this are common, over money, over pride, sometimes just because the ale was too strong. You step back, not eager to get pulled in. Guards might show up eventually, but for now, the crowd enjoys the spectacle. Amid the chaos, you catch a whiff of roasting meat that makes your stomach growl. You follow the smell to a man selling skewers. The chunks of meat glisten in the firelight, dripping fat that sizzles on the coals. But then you notice the flies. They're everywhere, landing, crawling, enjoying the feast before you do. You hesitate, torn between hunger and common sense. And here's the thing, most people would eat it anyway. When options are limited, your standards shrink fast. You shuffle on, trying to absorb every detail. The uneven stones, the flickering torches, the constant murmur of hundreds of voices blending into a single restless hum. This market isn't just a place to shop. It's the beating heart of the city. News spreads here, deals are struck here, lives are measured out in loaves of bread and mugs of ale. And as you move with the tide of people, you realize something unsettling. This crowd could turn on you in an instant. Strangers brush past, their eyes sharp, their hands quick. Pockets are lightened here all the time, and you wonder how long your own coin purse will last. You clutch it tighter, your pulse quickening, as another rat darts across your path like it knows something you don't. The night is thickening now, and the market is slowly closing down. Merchants pack up their goods, sweep bones into the gutter, and kick at the lingering rats. But the chaos doesn't vanish, it just shifts into darker corners. The crowd thins, but the shadows grow. You've made it through the marketplace alive, for now. Yet the city has plenty more in store for you. Scholars still argue whether medieval cities were truly centers of wealth or just overcrowded villages with fancy walls. But as you shuffle through the press of bodies, you see both sides at once. On one hand, there's silk glinting under torchlight, worn by a merchant's wife strutting like she owns the street. On the other, a beggar huddles in the corner, holding out a wooden bowl, his face hollow from hunger. Both breathe the same sour air. Both risk tripping over the same piles of waste. You try to keep your balance as you dodge a man tossing the contents of a chamber pot out of his window. It splashes dangerously close and you stumble back. People around you barely react. They just step aside, muttering curses, then continue shopping. It dawns on you, walking here requires more skill than you thought. One wrong step and you're ankle deep in someone's dinner or worse. A child tugs on your sleeve, holding up a handful of wilted herbs. She tells you they'll protect you from the plague. Her eyes are wide, too knowing for her age. You hand her a coin just to make her go away. But the words stick with you. Protection from the plague? The thought hangs in the air like smoke. Even here in the bustle of trade, fear is always whispering in the background. Rats scurry along the edges of the stalls, bold enough to dart under tables where dried fish is piled high. A butcher swings his cleaver and curses, trying to scare them off, but he's wasting his time. The rats are as much a part of the market as the people. They feast on dropped crumbs, gnawed bones, and whatever else hits the ground. You realize quickly that this city doesn't waste a thing. If the humans don't eat it, the rats will. You wander deeper into the city, letting the crowd carry you along. The market is still alive, though the sun has dipped away and shadows climb the crooked walls. Merchants are shouting themselves hoarse, desperate to sell whatever they couldn't unload during the day. A woman waves a basket of apples under your nose. Most of them soft, a few with worms, but she swears they're fresh from the orchard. You hesitate, then move on because you're not ready to risk medieval fruit roulette. The market square isn't some tidy place with neat stalls and smiling vendors. No, it's chaos, pure and simple. Chickens flap across your path, their feathers brushing against your legs, and a goat bleats loudly as a boy tries to drag it away by a fraying rope. The smell is a cocktail of roasting meat, spilled ale, human sweat, and something that might just be raw fish. You wrinkle your nose, but the locals don't even notice. This is the perfume of their everyday life. A blacksmith hammers at a horseshoe nearby, sparks leaping into the darkening sky. The rhythmic clanging echoes down the street, mingling with the cries of vendors. Eels, fresh eels, which is questionable since you're hours from the river. And over there, a baker is practically yelling at people to take his hard, leftover loaves before they turn into stones. You don't realize it yet, but stale bread is about to become a staple in your nightly diet. Amid the chaos, you catch a whiff of roasting meat that makes your stomach growl. You follow the smell to a man selling skewers. The chunks of meat glisten in the firelight, dripping fat that sizzles on the coals. But then you notice the flies. They're everywhere, landing, crawling, enjoying the feast before you do. You hesitate, torn between hunger and common sense. And here's the thing, most people would eat it anyway. When options are limited, your standards shrink fast. You shuffle on, trying to absorb every detail. The uneven stones, the flickering torches, the constant murmur of hundreds of voices blending into a single restless hum. This market isn't just a place to shop. It's the beating heart of the city. News spreads here, deals are struck here, lives are measured out in loaves of bread and mugs of ale. And as you move with the tide of people, you realize something unsettling. This crowd could turn on you in an instant. Strangers brush past, their eyes sharp, their hands quick. Pockets are lightened here all the time, and you wonder how long your own coin purse will last. You clutch it tighter, your pulse quickening, as another rat darts across your path like it knows something you don't. The night is thickening now, and the market is slowly closing down. Merchants pack up their goods, sweep bones into the gutter, and kick at the lingering rats. But the chaos doesn't vanish, it just shifts into darker corners. The crowd thins, but the shadows grow. You've made it through the marketplace alive, for now. Yet the city has plenty more in store for you. You try to keep your balance as you dodge a man tossing the contents of a chamber pot out of his window. It splashes dangerously close and you stumble back. People around you barely react. They just step aside, muttering curses, then continue shopping. It dawns on you, walking here requires more skill than you thought. One wrong step and you're ankle deep in someone's dinner or worse. A child tugs on your sleeve, holding up a handful of wilted herbs. She tells you they'll protect you from the plague. Her eyes are wide, too knowing for her age. You hand her a coin just to make her go away, but the words stick with you. Protection from the plague? The thought hangs in the air like smoke. Even here in the bustle of trade, fear is always whispering in the background. Rats scurry along the edges of the stalls, bold enough to dart under tables where dried fish is piled high. A butcher swings his cleaver and curses, trying to scare them off, but he's wasting his time. The rats are as much a part of the market as the people. They feast on dropped crumbs, gnawed bones, and whatever else hits the ground. You realize quickly that this city doesn't waste a thing. If the humans don't eat it, the rats will. Suddenly, a commotion breaks out. Two vendors are shouting, waving knives, each swearing the other cheated in a deal. A small crowd gathers, hungry for drama, like they're watching theater. Fights like this are common, over money, over pride, sometimes just because the ale was too strong. You step back, not eager to get pulled in. Guards might show up eventually, but for now, the crowd enjoys the spectacle. A group of children giggles as they toss stones at a rat scurrying across the gutter. They miss, of course, the rat vanishes into a crack in the wall, victorious. And you realize, deep down, this city doesn't belong to humans alone. You're sharing it with thousands of little whiskered neighbors. By now the sun is gone, and lanterns swing above doorways, casting pools of yellow light onto the filth below. A drunkard stumbles past, singing something that's half prayer, half insult. You watch him trip, fall into the gutter, then laugh like it's the best joke he ever told. People don't stop to help. That's normal. Life here is rough and you're expected to handle your own falls, literally and metaphorically. Your boots splash into something wet, you don't ask what, and you quicken your pace. You notice the city walls towering above, blotting out the stars. It feels claustrophobic, like the air itself is trapped with you. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks. Somewhere closer, a baby cries. Life here doesn't stop when the sun goes down. It just gets stranger. And as you pause to take it all in, you realize this. Tonight is only beginning. You've survived the first few steps into the city, but the true test, finding where to sleep, what to eat, and how to avoid being bitten, robbed, or worse, still lies ahead. And remember, the rats are always watching. Back outside, you nearly trip over a dog gnawing on a discarded bone. Children run past, shouting, carrying scraps of wood from one workshop to another. Everyone seems to have a role to play, even the smallest hands. You glance at a boy hammering nails into a plank, his face streaked with soot, and wonder if he's 10 years old or already 20. Hard to tell when work chisels childhood away so quickly. Then you hear it, laughter. Not the light laughter of children at play, but rough, booming laughter from a tavern door nearby. A group of men stumbles out, still holding mugs, their hands stained with dye or soot. Their guild symbols are stitched onto their tunics, proudly displayed like badges of honor. One of them slaps another on the back, nearly knocking him into the gutter. For them, work and drinking are inseparable. One fuels the other, both blur together. You edge past as the men bellow a song, their voices off-key but full of life. A rat darts between their boots, unnoticed. The guildmen don't care. They've earned their ale, their laughter, their moment of joy before tomorrow's labor starts again. The smoke, the heat, the endless pounding, by now it's overwhelming. You cough, rubbing your eyes, wishing for clean air. But there's no escaping it. This is the lifeblood of the city. Workshops and guild halls, where every clang of iron and splash of fat keeps the world turning. As you move away, the sounds fade slightly, but the smell clings to you, embedding itself in your clothes. You realize you'll carry this city's work with you wherever you go. It's dirt, it's sweat, it's fire. And in the back of your mind, you wonder, are you walking away from progress, or just deeper into the smoke? The air thickens as you reach the metalworkers' row. Smoke clings to your lungs, and your ears ring with constant hammering. The clangs overlap like bells from hell, each one reminding you how fragile peace is when everyone carries knives, swords, and axes made right here. You wonder if the same blacksmith who forges a farmer's plow also makes the blade that robs him in a dark alley. Scholars still argue whether guilds in medieval cities were protective brotherhoods or just glorified monopolies. Standing here, you can see how both might be true. Signs hang above some doors marking membership, symbols of hammers, looms, or mugs of ale. Inside, masters guard their secrets jealously, teaching only apprentices who've paid or sworn loyalty. Outsiders like you, you're just a spectator. You could beg all day, but no one's sharing their techniques. Your nose twitches as another smell creeps in, this one sharp, almost eye-watering. You peer into a small, dim shop and realize it's a candle maker. Animal fat simmers in pots, filling the air with a sour tang. Strips of wick dangle from beams, dripping grease onto the floor. A boy dips them one by one, building layer after layer until each is thick enough to burn. You think of the candle in your room, sputtering as rats scratched in the walls. Without this shop, even that dim light wouldn't exist. Further on, the sound changes. It's not hammering now, but chanting low, steady, rhythmic. You peek into a scriptorium, where monks copy manuscripts by hand. The air smells of ink and parchment, a welcome relief after tanneries and forges. One monk bends over his desk, tongue poking out as he carefully paints a golden letter onto a page. Another pauses to stretch his cramped fingers, then dips his quill again. The silence in here feels alien compared to the roar of the workshops outside. For a moment, you almost wish you could stay, but you know better. They wouldn't welcome you, not really. The bells still echo faintly behind you as you wander away from the square, following the noise of hammering and the smell of smoke. The city may pray at dawn, but by mid-morning, work has already taken over. Every street you turn down hums with a different rhythm, The strike of a hammer, the rasp of a saw, the hiss of a forge. It's a chorus of industry, the heartbeat of a medieval city. You pass a row of narrow wooden workshops, each spilling its craft onto the street. The first reeks of leather. Animal hides hang like stretched, pale ghosts, dripping with oily residue. A tanner works with his sleeves rolled up, his arms elbow-deep in a vat of liquid so foul you instinctively step back. He glares at you, daring you to say something, then slaps another hide onto a frame. His job is thankless, his stench legendary. But without him, nobody has boots, belts, or saddles. Next door, a blacksmith hammers glowing metal into shape. Sparks leap into the air, dazzling for an instant before vanishing into smoke. You feel the heat radiating from his forge, so intense you have to shield your face. He works without pause, sweat dripping from his brow, muscles rippling under the strain. Behind him, half-finished tools and horseshoes litter the floor. When he finally glances up, his expression is unreadable. You move on before he decides you're in the way. Every shop has its sound, its smell, its danger. A carpenter planes wood, sending curls of shavings spiraling into the street. A potter spins his wheel, hands steady as he shapes a lump of clay into something useful, maybe even beautiful. A weaver sits at her loom, feet tapping, threads clicking, creating fabric inch by inch. You realize just how much of life here depends on sheer human effort. Machines don't hum in the background. People do. When the priest finally lowers his arms in blessing, the congregation exhales like a single body. People cross themselves, murmur prayers, and shuffle out into the daylight. You follow, blinking against the sudden brightness. The smell of sewage and smoke hits you again, harsher now after the incense. You realize the church isn't just a place of worship, it's a sanctuary from the city itself. As you step back into the square, the bells fade into silence. For a brief moment, the city feels suspended, caught between sacred order and daily chaos. And then, just like that, life surges back. Vendors call out, carts rattle past, and a rat scurries along the gutter with half a crust in its mouth. The sacred and the filthy exist side by side, and you're right in the middle of it. Somewhere behind you, a baby wails. The mother rocks it frantically, earning glares from the people around her. An old man coughs so hard you think he might keel over right there, but no one moves to help. Instead, everyone keeps their eyes fixed on the priest, as if looking away might get them accused of something worse. The bells outside strike again, this time in a slower, more solemn rhythm. You realize this isn't just a time signal, it's an entire language. Bells toll for weddings, for funerals, for the start of market day, even for fires or danger. They're the heartbeat, the alarm, and the gossip of the city all rolled into one. Without them, the rhythm of daily life would collapse. And then you hear something curious, whispers of a debate. Two men in the back row mutter under their breath, glancing at the priest, then at each other. You can't catch every word, but you hear corruption and indulgences. Clearly, not everyone swallows the sermons whole. Some doubt, some question, some quietly rebel. Scholars still argue whether ordinary people truly believed everything they were told, or if they played along because it was safer. From the corner of your eye, you see how carefully the men keep their voices low. Here, one wrong word could be more dangerous than any rat bite. As the sermon drags on, you find your eyelids growing heavy. The drone of Latin, the flicker of candlelight, the thick incense. It's like the perfect storm for drowsiness. But every time your head dips, the sound of a bell jolts you awake again, as if reminding you, stay alert. You're not here to nap, you're here to obey. Inside, peasants kneel beside merchants, beggars beside knights. In here, at least in theory, everyone is equal before God. But you can't help noticing the merchant's wife with her velvet sleeves sitting much closer to the altar than the ragged man coughing in the back row. Equality, it seems, has its limits. Scholars still argue whether religion was a true comfort in daily medieval life or simply another system of control. Standing here, you can see both sides. On one hand, the chants calm your nerves, and the flickering candlelight softens the world's harsh edges. On the other, You can feel the weight of expectation pressing down on your shoulders. Pray, obey, behave. God may forgive you, but the priest and your neighbors might not. A boy sidles up to you, clutching a wooden collection box. He rattles it expectantly, eyes wide. You dig into your purse and drop in a coin, though you're not sure whether it's out of faith, fear, or just to make him go away. His smile is brief before he scampers off to shake the box at someone else. You drift further inside, drawn by the echo of footsteps on stone. The air is cooler here, almost damp, and you notice patches of green moss clinging to the walls where rain has seeped through cracks. The benches are hard, worn smooth by countless bodies. You lower yourself onto one, trying to blend in, but you can't escape the feeling that every painted saint is watching you from their niche. Their wooden eyes seem to follow you, silently judging. The priest ascends the pulpit, his robes swaying as he climbs the steps. He clears his throat, then launches into a sermon. His voice rises and falls, sharp and commanding, though again the Latin leaves you lost. Still, you can catch his tone. Stern when condemning sin, soft when promising salvation, and booming when demanding obedience. You don't need translation to know when he's scolding the flock. The city wakes not with an alarm clock, but with bells. Heavy iron tongues strike bronze, echoing across rooftops and into every crooked alley. The sound rolls through the streets, bouncing off timber beams and stone walls until it feels like the entire place is vibrating. You pause where you stand, clutching your ears for a moment. It's not just noise, it's authority. The bells tell you what time it is, when to work, when to rest, when to pray. You glance up at the towering church spire in the distance. Even through the morning haze, it's impossible to miss. Every city, no matter how filthy or chaotic, crowns itself with one of these. Stone rising like a finger pointing at heaven, declaring who really runs the show here. And make no mistake, it isn't the mayor or the market or the guards. It's the church. You shuffle toward the square where the bells are ringing the loudest. People are already gathering, some bowing their heads, others crossing themselves quickly before scurrying off to work. A few kneel right there in the street, mumbling prayers you can't quite make out over the din. You wonder if they're truly devout or just afraid of being judged by the neighbors. After all, in a place where everyone knows everyone, your soul is community property. The church doors swing open, groaning on their hinges, and the smell of incense drifts out. Sweet, smoky, strangely comforting compared to the stench of sewage outside. You step closer, peeking into the gloom. Candles flicker against stained glass, painting colored shadows across stone pillars. The sound of chanting rises, voices weaving together in Latin. You don't understand the words, but the rhythm is hypnotic, like the heartbeat of the city itself. You turn down another lane, hoping it'll be cleaner. No such luck. This one is filled with chamber pots lined neatly along the wall, waiting to be emptied. The smell hits you before you even get close. You cover your mouth again, eyes watering, but there's no escape. If one street reeks of dung, the next reeks of fish, and the next reeks of leather tanning. The entire city is a patchwork of smells, and none of them pleasant. Yet, amid the stench, life goes on. A baker's boy trots past with a basket of fresh bread, balancing it carefully above the gutter. A dog sniffs the edge of the waste channel, then licks something you'd rather not identify. Two girls skip rope just beyond the worst of the mess, their laughter oddly cheerful against the foul backdrop. And through it all, the rats thrive. You notice them darting in and out of drains, snatching scraps from the gutters, climbing walls with eerie ease. They're not just scavengers here. They're survivors, masters of the streets. You can't help but think they know the city better than you ever will. By the time you reach the main square again, you're already longing for the countryside. But you're stuck here, and this is your reality. Streets lined with chamber pots, alleys filled with sewage, and rats that don't fear you in the slightest. You wonder how anyone sleeps soundly in a place like this. Then remember you didn't, and the day has only just begun. Scholars still argue whether city officials truly cared about cleaning streets, or whether their occasional decrees about no waste after dark were mostly ignored. Judging from this alley, you're guessing ignored. Every wall is streaked with filth, every corner smells like an outhouse, and rats scurry fearlessly in broad daylight. One rat pauses right in front of you, bold as a landlord demanding rent. Its fur is slick with something you don't want to identify, and its black eyes glisten in the morning light. It stares at you for a moment, whiskers twitching, then dives headfirst into the gutter like it's going for a swim. You shudder. For the rats, this is paradise. For you, it's a nightmare. You edge forward carefully, dodging piles of straw mixed with manure. The straw was supposed to absorb waste, but really, it just creates a mushy layer that squelches under your boots. At one corner, you nearly slip where someone dumped the contents of a slaughtered pig, blood still sticky on the stones. You grip the wall to steady yourself, then curse under your breath as the wall leaves a streak of grime on your sleeve. A cart rattles past, its wheels splashing filth onto your legs. The driver shouts at you to move faster, but the alley is barely wide enough for you both. You squeeze against a wall and watch as the cart disappears, leaving a trail of crushed cabbage leaves and muddy water. Somewhere nearby, a bell tolls, calling people to church, to work, to whatever passes for routine in this world. But right now, all you can think about is whether your boots will ever stop smelling like this alley. Still, not everyone minds. A woman leans out of her window above, dumping more waste with an almost cheerful sigh. She calls out to her neighbor across the way, and the two women begin chatting as if nothing disgusting just happened. You stare in disbelief, then realize this is normal for them. For you, it's unthinkable. For them, it's Tuesday. 40281. You wake before dawn, not because you slept well, but because the noise never truly stopped. Snoring neighbors, footsteps creaking in the hallway, and rats scratching behind the walls. None of it allowed you more than scattered scraps of rest. Your head is heavy, your skin itches, and your throat is dry from breathing in dust, smoke, and maybe mold. Still, the city doesn't wait for you. You push yourself off the straw bed, stretch stiff limbs, and head outside, hoping for fresh air. Fresh air, though, is a cruel joke here. The moment you step into the street, your nose is hit by a wall of stench so thick you swear you could chew it. The narrow alley you stumble into is lined with wooden buckets and clay pots brimming with human waste. Some are covered, but many are not. You watch in horror as a woman casually lifts a chamber pot and tips its contents right into the street below. It splashes down with a squelch, trickling into the open gutter that runs straight through the middle of the lane. Welcome to medieval sanitation. The gutter isn't some neat little stream carrying water. No, it's a foul cocktail of urine, feces, blood from the butcher's shop, greasy kitchen water, and the occasional dead animal. The liquid oozes sluggishly along, making its way downhill toward the river. And because the city drinks from the same river, you're starting to understand why medieval stomachs weren't exactly known for their strength. You cover your mouth with your sleeve, but the smell is everywhere. People stride right through it without blinking. Children splash in the muck as if it's just another playground. You almost gag as you see one boy fling a handful of sludge at another, laughing until his mother yells at him. She doesn't stop him for playing with waste. She just doesn't want her laundry dirtier than it already is.